Have you ever seen a photo so surprising that it made everyone stop and talk about it? Well, that is exactly what happened with Linda Evans. This Hollywood star is not just famous for her acting, she made headlines in a way that shocked fans and the media alike. We are going to uncover the story behind some of her most talked about photos. Linda Evans started her career when she was really young. She appeared in movies and television shows, slowly becoming one of the most recognizable faces in Hollywood. But it was not just her acting that caught attention. At one point, she did something that people were not expecting at all. Yes, we are talking about photos that showed her topless. And before you get too shocked, remember that this was a time when Hollywood was very different from today. These images were bold, unexpected, and they made headlines for years. Back in the 1960s and 1970s, actors were watched very closely. Every picture, every choice could become big news. Linda Evans was no exception. She was already famous for television shows, but when these photos came out, people could not stop talking. It was not just about the photos themselves. It was the fact that a well-known, respected actress did something so daring. These photos were not meant to shock for the sake of shocking. At the time, Linda was trying to push her career forward and show a different side of herself. Many actors and actresses experimented with bold looks, but her photos stood out. People were not used to seeing someone like Linda take this kind of risk. Let us look at her career a little. Linda Evans started with small roles, but soon she became a household name. She worked hard to get where she was, and then, at a certain point, she made a decision that changed how the public saw her. The photos showed her topless, but they also showed confidence. People noticed her beauty, her style, and her courage to take a chance. It is important to remember that these were not just random pictures. They were carefully planned and shared in a way that became part of her story. Some fans loved it, while others were shocked. Newspapers wrote about it, television shows discussed it, and fans debated it everywhere. Some people even said it was brave, while others thought it was risky. Either way, it made Linda Evans impossible to ignore. Over time, Linda Evans continued her career and grew even more famous. But the photos remained a topic of conversation for decades. They became part of Hollywood history, remembered as one of those moments when someone dared to step outside the ordinary. What is interesting is that today, people still talk about these images. Not because they are scandalous, but because they show a person making a bold choice in a world that often expects people to play it safe. That is part of why Linda Evans is still remembered, even by people who never saw her shows. Fans online sometimes share the photos or talk about the story behind them. It is clear that her decision made an impact. And here is something to think about. Even though the photos were shocking back then, today they are seen as a part of her journey, showing a side of her life that most people did not know about. Linda Evans' topless photos were more than just pictures. They were a statement. They were a moment that reminded everyone that celebrities are people too, with choices, risks, and lives beyond the screen. Because of that, these images are still remembered, even decades later. Of course, her career did not stop there. She went on to star in shows that made her a household name, showing that one bold choice did not define her entire life. Instead, it became a chapter in a much bigger story. The story of Linda Evans' photos also teaches something important. Sometimes, people take risks, and it changes how the world sees them. For her, it was a risk that shocked everyone at first, but eventually became part of the story that made her unforgettable. So the next time you see a photo that surprises you, remember that it could be more than just a picture. It could be a story, a choice, a moment in someone's life that made people stop and notice. That is exactly what happened with Linda Evans. If you want to see more stories like this from Hollywood past, make sure to subscribe. There are so many moments like Linda's that changed how people saw the stars we still admire today.